Hi, I'm Mark Pukita. Welcome to another episode of Mark Pukita's Truth Bomb. Tonight, we've got a great show for you. The highlight of tonight's show will be the second segment, where we'll play clips from my Franklin County Republican Party endorsement screening by their screening committee. But after that, segment number 3 will give an update on the ORP State Central Committee meeting that happens on February 4th. But the first segment we have will be about the governor and Secretary of State races in Ohio and why there have been no, and there are no forums scheduled in that race where candidates would get together and have to face off, asking questions or answering questions and facing off with each other. We've had 6 formal forums in the Senate race, 4 with the Ohio Press Network, 1 with the Center for Christian Virtue, and 1 with the Chamber of Commerce in Akron in conjunction with Akron University. And then we've all been together in other events, like Pat Fisher's Fifth Friday event down in Blue Ash. This is odd, and it's also wrong. The press doesn't seem to care about it. Nobody else seems to care about it, but we should care about it. Competition makes people strive to do better. Choice in the marketplace yields better results. Education is better. No competition, no education, no choice leads to bad results. So candidates need to be in front of the people. I love being in front of the people. I think people love having candidates in front of them and putting them through their paces. So we've got Joe Blystone, Jim Renacci, and John Adams, who are challengers to people like Mike DeWine, Frank LaRose, and we need to, we need to hear from these people. Now, speaking of Joe Blystone, Chris Hicks, who you know from this show, did an interview with Jeremiah Workman, who's Joe Blystone's lieutenant governor pick. And I thought that it would be good for you to see that today, and you can understand a little bit more about Joe Blystone's lieutenant governor pick, Jeremiah Workman. We're kind of putting the message out. Jack Windsor from the Ohio Press Network, Aaron Baer from the Center for Christian Virtue, Andrew Tobias from the Plain Dealer. How about getting something together for these statewide races? It's well past time. So why don't we listen to the interview and watch the interview that Chris did with Jeremiah Workman?
I'm here with Jeremiah Workman, who is the lieutenant governor candidate running with Joe Blystone. And we're talking today on Mark Pukita's Truth Bomb about the lack of candidate forums taking place for governor and secretary of state, where there are competitive races, and Mr. Blystone's running, Renacci's running, and then we have John Adams in the secretary of state race. So in a few minutes, Mr. Workman, I'm going to let you talk about yourself and give a campaign update. But real quick, are you guys of the Blystone campaign, or, kind of what's your position on wanting to be in forums, why there aren't any forums, kind of your take on candidate forums and really what seems to be like the lack of them on the governor race?
Yeah, we believe that the people of Ohio should be well informed about who they're voting for. We welcome these forums, if it's a fair and balanced atmosphere. We would love to participate. As the only constitutional conservatives on the ticket, the folks of Ohio will definitely see a difference in the different candidates.
Okay.
And
the answers and where you guys come from. Have you guys been, the people that have done forums on the Senate side, there's been lots of forums. I think Mr. Pukita has been in 6 or 7 of them. He was not part of the Center for Christian Virtue Forum. He was part of the Ohio Press Network Forum. Are you aware of either of those organizations planning forums for governor anytime soon?
We have not been contacted, I don't believe, by any of those organizations. So, like I said, we would welcome that. Why they're just trying to, I guess, keep us out of the loop so that we can't get the word out.
They don't like Mr. Pukita's a citizen candidate, never run for office before. And I think that Mr. Blystone is the same, coming from a background of not career politician, not having run for office. How about yourself? So we got your take on forums. Maybe tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Workman, and your background and how you got hooked up with Joe Blystone.
Yeah, so I left Ohio when I was 17 to go to the Marine Corps and was medically retired. You're very welcome. I was medically retired due to wounds received in Fallujah, Iraq back in 2004, 2005. And spent the last 15 years in Washington, D.C. and saw the swamp firsthand there at the national level. And when my wife and I and our 2 kids decided to move back home, it was very obvious that there was a swamp in Columbus as well. So when the opportunity presented itself with Joe Blystone, I immediately thought to myself, this is an opportunity to do what's right, to represent the people of Ohio the way they deserve to be represented.
Right.
And that's what transparency and integrity and all those things that a lot of people lack these days. So I honestly think it's a God thing to be put in this position. I'm humbled. And I just, Joe and myself, we both want to do what's right for 12, 13 million people here living in Ohio to ensure that they have the freedoms and rights that they deserve.
Okay. So I appreciate that quick kind of background, and I appreciate that you guys are, Mr. Pukita is a citizen candidate. You guys are citizen candidates. There's a lot of the same messaging, and I'm just hopeful that we can have more citizen candidates, more outsiders, and start challenging what's become a protected class in Columbus, Ohio. That, we're asking the question here, where's the forum? Where's the forum? And I've heard people say, well, Governor DeWine wouldn't participate. I'm like, well, then let him not participate so the citizens can see that he's unwilling to be part of a forum.
Absolutely. It's shameful that here in this country that for the longest time, when it's time for us to go vote, we have to hold our nose when we cast our vote. And I think people are tired of that. They're
right. Yeah, I got tired of being told as a Republican.
The time is now. They want to be represented by real people that actually are in touch with the average person here in the state of Ohio, or for that matter, across the nation. So I think the time is now. We need to keep it going, and we're doing very well.
Okay.
And, we're looking forward to it.
Well, I wish the press, I wish the institutions that do these kind of forums would get on the ball and get past just say articles on who raised what money, who's doing what advertising, and get a little bit more into letting the citizens see the different candidates in a fair, balanced forum, taking questions from either a good moderator or from the audience. So I appreciate you taking the time, Mr. Workman. Thank you for your service to our country. And I wish you guys the best of luck, and I'm sure that Mr. Pukita does as well.
Hey, we appreciate it, and best of luck to you all.
Thank you.
That was awesome. First of all, I want to thank Jeremiah for his service. He is a true hero. You've got to go look up his service history. He's a true hero. He laid it all on the line for this country, and he is a patriot. So thank you to him, and thanks to the Blystone campaign for finding a way to get him on today. We've asked many other candidates to come on, and he's I think the second after John Adams. So segment number 2 is the one I told you would be a highlight of tonight. That's the Franklin County Republican Party Endorsement Screening Committee that I met with this week. I had an interview with them. We recorded it and we published it. They don't do that. We believe that these kind of interviews of candidates should be live streamed and also recorded, so the voting base can see these candidates and get to know them, all the candidates. It was a good night. I mean, my interview, the people from Franklin County were fair. It was a good exchange. It was polite. There were no tricks. And I think we did, though, see a big difference between me and many of the folks that interviewed me, but also there was a bit of some factions in terms of the questions that were asked. So Chris Hicks is going to join us for this segment. Chris, why don't you set this up for us, please?
All right. Well, let's go. One thing I'm going to set up is I can't live without playing the little separators between the segments, Mark. So let's go into segment 2 full throttle right now.
So, Chris, I couldn't help notice, but you got video bombed in that last segment.
Yep.
By Tilly, your beagle.
Tilly the beagle was on the couch behind me and decided to move around a little bit. I wasn't paying any attention. Mr. Workman and I were trying to get the audio to work right on both ends, so
that was pretty cute. I like that. I've got a beagle as well, so that was cute.
Good deal. So I think I've met your beagle a couple times. So
you have Izzy.
So here's what we did. What I did, and in full disclosure, I did not. You've seen this list of the 8 things, but I've not played any of the video clips that I extracted from your Franklin County interview with their screening committee for their full endorsement. So I'm going to play 8 clips. One of them is super surprise. I think the clips all in total are about 6 minutes, and they are just a small segment. Now on your YouTube page and your Facebook page is the full interview that you had with them. And let's get right into it. We're going to play the 8 segments, and then we'll talk about what happened at the end of this in terms of what did they recommend to their committee. And I think, as far as I know, you're the only person that has a recording of your interview with the Franklin County Republican Screening Committee. Here we go with segment 1. How do you stand on Trump policies?
I would say that I am 100% behind President Trump's policies, except for the fact that we spent too much money. Now, that wasn't his responsibility per se. That's, spending is of Congress, but I think he could have done more to shut down spending. We spend way too much money. We're printing money like we're Venezuela. We're seeing the inflation from it now. And even our current sitting Senator Rob Portman is okay with adding to our debt. I'm not. A debt of $30 trillion, it may be unrecoverable. And we're going to monetize that debt. We're going to make 401ks of Ohioans worthless, and that's just that's not something I believe can stand.
All right, so that's your stand on Trump policies. Now, I have segment 2, so you can see we're going to have more on spending. But Mark, on Trump policies, you talk about spending. Maybe you want to talk for a second about what Trump policies you're most in support of, or you think are most important to reestablish, real quick here.
Oh boy, Chris. I mean, that's a long list. I mean, finish the wall. I think dealing with regulations, specious regulations for business. Leveling the playing field in terms of trade and intellectual property theft with China. I mean, China's our biggest enemy by far. Giving the Border Patrol the support and the money and the tools they need to protect the border. I'm the only one in the race who doesn't want to send the U.S. military to the southern border, but rather use it to fight our biggest threat, which is China. We can protect the border with the Border Patrol. I mean, I could go on and on, Chris, but his policies, I literally, I'm in 100% agreement with them because, we've got our 21-point policy guide. And if you look at it, they're just common sense. And I think Donald Trump was a common sense guy. And he probably would have loved having a 21-point policy guide like we've got. And we laugh about it because we talk about it all the time. But this is all common sense stuff in this guide. And Donald Trump was a common sense guy, and he just thought, we should have a level playing field and be competitive and have America first. Like his America first policy, that I think maybe was number one, because that kind of spills into everything else. If you think about America first in every decision you're making, I think you'll make the right decision for the country.
Okay. Let's move on to clip number 2 on spending. Clip number 2, you mentioned spending in the first clip, but you got asked a follow-up question about it. And here's what you said about spending in the follow-up.
Just to follow up on that, how would you rein in spending, understanding that unfortunately both parties talk a lot about cutting spending, and then when they go to Congress, sometimes politics gets in the way?
Right. So I've got, I don't know if any of you've seen it. I've got a 21-point policy guide. I'm the only candidate that has anything like that written down as a commitment to voters, putting a stake in the ground. That debt question is answered in there. While I would like to be able to say we wave a magic wand and we do away with, departments and things like that, that is red meat for the base, but it really isn't practical. So what I've said is let's do something that's possible and saleable, and that would be to reduce spending by 1% a year. We need kind of a Dave Ramsey money makeover for the federal government in terms of spending. We've just got to tighten the belt.
Okay, so the second part was on spending. I think you had a very eloquent answer there, but maybe, I know you're very passionate about this topic, Mark.
Well, so, I mean, I am passionate about it, Chris, and that my mantra is we need to be spending 10 times as much energy and vocalization for cutting spending that we do about tax policy. We argue about tax policy, and I think it's a shiny metal object that many Republicans and Democrats, maybe the Democrats, get us into that trap. We start talking about tax policy and we get so wrapped up in that we forget about the debt. It's kind of like a distraction, so Rob Portman's a great example. Rob Portman is talking about tax policy and lowering taxes at the same time that he's signing on to and supporting this bipartisan, which is not bipartisan, infrastructure bill, which is going to add $4 trillion to the national debt. This is insane. Again, we're printing money like Venezuela. We can't get beef like Venezuela. We can't get toilet paper like Venezuela. We just have to be more fiscally prudent. We just need to be more prudent. You couldn't manage your household the way we manage the federal government.
So the third clip is on investigating DeWine.
Boy, I got it. That was a burr under someone's saddle right there, man.
So here we go. Let's watch what you said about investigating DeWine.
But some of the stuff you put out on social media is just, I'm sorry for this, cringeworthy. And I'll give you one example just from, from yesterday. Quote, Mike DeWine doesn't deserve to be reelected. He deserves to be investigated. Now, I understand the sentiment. I do. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. How is that helpful to Republicans up and down the ticket in Ohio to call the guy that will probably be our standard bearer in 2022 someone that needs to be investigated, and there was another post where you called him corrupt? How does that help?
How does it help? I think it helps by being willing to call out the problems we have in our own party with our own elected officials. I believe that we will be saving the Republican Party. This is a rigged game, and people are starting to understand it. They understand that the insider class is manipulating everything in our party. I'll tell you, if Mike DeWine is the nominee, there, God bless him, he may win, but we are going to lose people in our party. Chris,
that was Investigate DeWine with a quote today by one of the questioners. Cringeworthy,
right.
Mark Pukita.
So
he's going to go hang out with Jenna Ellis soon.
Yeah.
Scumbag Mark Pukita.
Yeah. So it's cringeworthy that I call out corruption, but it's not cringeworthy that corruption is being committed. How upside down is that, Chris? It's absolutely absurd. And I know I use that word a lot, but I've never used that word before until I ran for office. This stuff is absolutely lunacy.
Right. And you've heard me say before, and I've heard you pick up on it, is we are supposed to be the party of Honest Abe.
Right.
So we should own ethics and integrity. We should own accountability of our own. We should own that we have an obligation that's sacred to provide citizens with excellence in government.
Chris, people are going out of their way, the insiders, they are bending themselves like a pretzel to figure out how to justify the corruption of Mike DeWine, his connections to First Energy, his chief of staff, it's just, you look at the connections, it's like this ball of yarn. It's crazy. And yet they're like, yeah, okay, we're good.
Well, the next one is bashing other Republicans. So let's watch the question about bashing other Republicans. I don't know. Could it be true that you've bashed other Republicans? Let's see.
And you're not going to win many friends bashing fellow Republicans. And I think that's to the detriment of the previous president, because he did accomplish some things, but he spent too much time bashing Republicans instead of leading the party in the country. So no question.
So let me ask you a question, though. What are my cheap attacks?
Bashing Romney, as you just did, and bashing Senator Portman. So that's it. But you're not.
But this is. I think this is an important topic. I think we need to be having honest discussions about what is going on in our party.
All right. God forbid we'd have honest discussions about what's going on in our party.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I wasn't expecting to be questioned by a Democrat in that session. So that gentleman, I figured out today, was an aide to Steve Stivers. Steve Stivers is possibly the biggest rhino in Ohio, and now runs the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. And Steve is all in for vaccine mandates, right? I'm not bashing anybody. I am just talking about their political stances and what is out in the public domain. Everything I talk about in terms of Mike DeWine is out in the press already. My competitors, it's out there. They don't want it brought to light, Chris. So that's the issue.
Well, and you and I have made the comment from looking at this. I know we've talked about that for the sort of rhinoism or in some of these questions, they were pretty fair, pretty
totally
transparent
fair
in their questions.
Very fair.
They weren't like attacking questions, but they were picking on you, but they weren't over the top red meat type thing. These were just who these people were. And I think, they gave you a hearing, but it just is indicative of some of the things going on in our party. The fifth clip is entitled "What's Important to Ohioans?" because you get asked about what's important to Ohioans. Let's go ahead and play that one.
Wondering if you could speak to what you're hearing from Ohioans as you're out talking with people, and what's important to them, because after all, that's the people that you're going to go and represent.
The number one problem I'm hearing about when I really cut through it is they're fed up with corruption in government at all levels.
So they're fed up with corruption in government at all levels is the number one thing you said. Right. That you did get asked, and I didn't put it in the clip, some other things, but maybe you want to tell us some about your, it might be the first time you've ever talked about it on the Truth Bomb, about corruption and corruption within the political system.
So there was a recent survey done. It's the POGO, Project Something for Government Oversight. Anyway, they had a survey done of Ohio and Michigan voters. It was bipartisan survey, and by far, corruption in government was the number one issue, far ahead of anything else. Now, in Ohio, I also hear about voter integrity or election integrity and health freedom, no mandates and things like that. But corruption is it. And it's why we focus on it. I mean, why would I focus on something that isn't important to voters, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. And they're like, no, you need to talk about corruption less. Like that's the sage advice I'm getting.
Want you to talk less about corruption.
Yeah, that's the sage advice I'm getting from these insiders who are supposed to be so, intuitive and knowledgeable about politics. But it really is about corruption. And if you step back from, like, so for example, House Bill 248, it's a travesty that isn't law right now. And Mike DeWine didn't
very
want
much like it.
Yeah, or something very much like it. And Mike DeWine doesn't like it, so it's killed. And that's a travesty to me, and that's part of this corruption. Corruption isn't just money, Chris. We've talked about this before. Corruption isn't just someone benefiting monetarily. It's the party and people in power being dishonest with the people they lead. They aren't being honest, and it just drives me crazy. I've been this way since I was a kid. It's why you and I click, Chris. And it's my supporters are the same way. We just want to be left alone, but we don't want to be lied to.
Right. And I can't help but saying here, when I spoke at the Redistricting Commission I guess I have to put a plug in for me speaking at the Redistricting Commission about what does any of these districts matter if we don't even have a legislature that meets and acts on things specifically like House Bill 248. Bob Cupp didn't just kill House Bill 248. He refused to let the legislature meet.
Right.
That is like a communist country.
Right.
The king told
the
said, don't do it. The premier said don't meet, so they didn't even meet.
I think many Ohioans don't understand how little work the General Assembly does because the speaker and the leader or the president of the Senate don't bring them into session. And it's to not do things. And you'd be fired in any other job for doing that.
So our sixth topic is primary endorsement. So primary endorsement is the sixth one. Let's go ahead and play what you said about primary endorsement.
This was fun.
I understand from what you just said that you're one of the people that feels that the state Central Committee shouldn't be making endorsements in primaries. What do you feel about, obviously you're screening here for our endorsement. Do you want us to recommend your endorsement, and do you want the endorsement of the Franklin County Central Committee, or would you want the Franklin County Central Committee not to endorse the U.S. Senate race?
I would love you not to endorse in any race.
So that went on for like another minute of stunned. He said, we didn't want to endorse, and you stuck to your guns of no, you don't think there should be endorsements.
Yeah, they kept trying kept trying to bait me into, well, if we endorsed you, you'd be okay with it, right? No, I'm not. and that would have been, probably the end of my campaign if I had said that. Yet, that was absurd. That questioning was absurd. They know my position. Chris, I've got probably, would you say, hundreds of hours of video of me talking to people.
I don't, okay. Yes. Okay.
Well, maybe 100 hours, not 100, 100 hours. Okay.
If you this is a joke. If you have hundreds of hours, should have an award for the person that first watches the hundreds of hours of.
Yeah.
Mark
It's
Pukita.
not hundreds. Okay, so that was hyperbole. That was, every now and again I slip into politician mode. But there's got to be 50 or 60 hours worth of stuff out there.
Right.
Between truth bombs and recordings of Senate forums and things like that. They should know this, but I think they actually didn't do much research. I mean, they did research on the red meat stuff, the stuff that people, are all up in arms about if they're insider elite, want to control the base. But they didn't understand. They didn't understand my policy. There were a lot of things they didn't understand, and I was a little disappointed we didn't get into more policy discussion.
I thought it was actually a good question, and I thought I didn't think it necessarily reflects on what they knew about you, but it might reflect on a situation in which often politicians play both sides of the street. They are against endorsements, principally against endorsements from primaries that they can't get, but they're principally for endorsements that they can get. They walk both sides of the street on that issue.
That's like my competitors, my opponents in this race. I'm the only one calling out Ohio Republican Party corruption. I'm the only one saying Mike DeWine needs to be investigated, not reelected. And I'm the only one saying that Rob Portman is not a statesman. He is a sellout and a turncoat. They won't say that because, Chris, you make a good point. They're on the outside now, but man, they want to take advantage of the largesse of being on the inside. But they're not there yet. But they're like, man, we don't want to screw that up just in case we make it over the line.
Get on the inside, then we want to have all the benefits.
Yeah, we get through that gate, through the Berlin Wall, and man, we're home free.
Okay. So the seventh item is education. And it's not education that you would think education. It's a different kind of education that people might think that they're used to hearing Mark Pukita talk about. So let's hear what you said about education and political parties in education.
I believe that some campaigns like mine, and I'm not the only one, are doing the education job of voters that the Ohio Republican Party and county central committees should be doing. Very few people in Ohio even understand the central committee structure, so we're educating them on that. Try to go to a county website and find out how to run for central committee. That should be right on the front page of every website.
I thought that was actually a brilliant answer, because I've become numb to the fact that none of the political websites have anything on there about how to run, how to get involved. I'm sure if you go to the ORP site right now, it has nothing about state central committee or when to file.
Right. I think there are a few. I mean, I've been to all that I could find, and there are a few that have information out there, but they're few and far between. It's because I believe it's because they want to keep it secret, and they can have their secret, decoder ring kind of, right, in the cereal box kind of club.
Well, and the way these things happen, you've met a lot of politician people that are career politicians. How would you assess them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being geniuses, 1 being functional morons? Where do you think most of the political class sits on a scale of 1 to 10?
When you say political class, are you talking about the people that...
Career politician types, people that have been in office for a long time, typically.
I'm not going to give you a number, Chris, but I'm shocked at how ill-equipped they are to do the basics of life. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and then you think about these systems that don't educate and how much talent there could be out there that's good conservative talent that doesn't come forward or doesn't even know how they could come forward, that could, to me, achieve something we really need, which is excellence in conservative government in our state and in our nation.
Well,
So,
it needs to be something that people want to strive for, right? It's right now, it's like people are like, ugh, I don't want to do that.
I hate it, right?
Right. And so that's why I've said I want to go to Washington and raise the bar for senators. I don't want to be raising funds all the time when I'm there. I want to work, and I want to make it a fait accompli that people want to reelect me because I've done such a great job. And if they don't, I will gladly step aside. Gladly step aside. That's what you would do in business, right? And Donald Trump like paved the way for this. And not only Democrats, but Republicans want to like kind of cover up that path. He cut the path and they just want to cover it up again because it's like,
shovel it over.
Man, if that happens, we're in trouble. And
right.
I hope they are in trouble. We need a regime change.
All right. So the very last clip is entitled Surprise. So this one, you can't even tell what it is, but maybe
I think I know what this is going to be.
What it is. So I'm going to play.
Can I guess?
Okay, go ahead and guess.
Does it have something to do with Mitt Romney?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So you guessed wrong. So
I guessed wrong.
At least people know you don't know what it is. So that what's coming. So here's what I put as surprise.
It's not like I'm angry and pissed off all the time. I'm actually a really fun guy, and I think those of you who have met me will understand that. And my campaign, we have a really good time.
So hold on a second. Hold the presses. So you're not angry and pissed off all the time?
No, I'm actually rarely like that. It just seems like, in these situations, there's a time for cutting up, Chris, and there's a time for being serious. And it seems to me that and I'm not even sure how to put this, that the insiders, the elite insiders, get really upset when you get serious and you come at them with, God forbid, questions. God forbid, follow-up questions.
Critiques.
Yeah, God forbid, follow-up questions when they don't answer the question. This is something that we've talked about before on Truth Bombs. These people who are in the insider elites or believe they have very thin skins. They get their, underwear in a wad just so easily.
Right.
And it's not like I try to do it. It just happens because it's like, so for example, that question about, let me ask you a question. He was trying to shut me down. He's like, right. If you listen underneath, it's like, I'm not asking a question. I'm like, okay, I don't care if you're asking a question. I'm going to ask you a question.
Right.
It's like we are from on high. We're the monarchy, and we're going to tell you when to bow and what taxes you owe us, and you will like it. And I think we're done with that. Donald Trump taught us, exposed it, and we're done with that.
So, but hold on, that sounded a little bit angry and pissed off to me. What's the most fun you have on the campaign trail? What's the most fun? You said you're a fun guy, not angry and pissed off all the time. What is it that you really enjoy about campaigning and meeting people?
Okay, so the other night after an event, the event was great. We went and had, we don't, most of the time we don't eat all day until after an event. We just don't have time. We drink a lot of coffee and then we go. It's like the guys that are with me, Sam and Andy, most of the time, they're like, we got to go eat. So we stopped in Tiffin at this local place and had a great meal, one of the best Reubens I've ever had. And but everybody there around, we started, they're like, where are you guys from? We see your hats, we see your buttons and all the rest. And before you know it, everyone in the restaurant has a Beat the Swamp bat, right? And and they're taking home for their kids. The beat the swamp, doesn't hurt kind of thing. And they're talking about issues that bother them. Like some of them were business people, and they're like, Mike DeWine locked us down, locked us out. So I call him Lockdown Mike First Energy DeWine. That's my new name for him. And they're like high-fiving us because they were upset about that too. So I just love meeting people that are like me. I mean, that's me. I came from a lower middle class family, grandfathers, coal miners. These folks Ohioans are great people, and they deserve better leadership, Chris.
Well, I've seen when you get in these places, I think you engage with people and have a good time engaging with people, which is very different than a politician who works a room.
Right.
Right. So, that's, I think you're a fun guy, and but I don't want you to lose any of that angry and pissed off energy. I want to make sure you keep that, because
that'll never happen.
There's never been a time in America when we shouldn't be as angry and pissed off as we are right now.
No, there's no question about that. We've got an empty sack of skin in the White House, and we need to fix that.
So our third and final segment is on basically the ORP and so on and so forth. So let's go into that.
So February 4th is the next Ohio Republican Party ORP State Central Committee meeting. And we found out today that Banana Republic Bob Paduchik wants to lock out the rank and file Republicans, the members of the party. He only wants the elite to be in the room. So we're not going to be allowed in the room. They are giving us, through their largesse, Chris, they are going to allow us to watch a live stream of this meeting. So we already planned, and this might have forced Bob Banana Republic Paduchik's hand, as well as lying Dave Johnson, the treasurer, might have forced them into doing this. But we've got a big room. It'll hold 150 people at the same facility, the same location in Lewis Center at the Nationwide Conference Center, the Nationwide Insurance Conference Center. We have a big room, and we'll be starting at 9:30. The meeting for the Ohio Republican Party State Central Committee starts at 10. We'll have a room. You'll be able to come there. We'll have a little pre-game kind of thing talking about what's going to happen. We'll watch the live stream, and then afterwards, we will have a meeting. There will be some speakers, including some of the people we talked about before. John Adams is already committed, but we have other candidates who are trying to rearrange their schedules to be there. So it is a Patriots event. We'll also talk about the mailer that we sent out and the offer that we've made, because we're trying to fix these problems that we have identified. And one of those problems is we have a state central committee that never turns over. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is just uninformed voters. But so we're informing voters. We sent out this mailer to what, Chris? Almost 5,000 people, right. All of the county central committee members, as well as the state central committee members. And we made them an offer. You see number 2, run for state central committee. And so Chris is going to take us through the program, what we're offering. And we had someone call this, they're so upset about this, Chris, that they call this a bribe the other day. They said they worked in the prosecutor's office and this is a bribe. And I said, if it's a bribe, bring the charges. Just bring them.
Let's get it going. So
yeah, let's get it on.
So just also on the event, so you talked about the event on February 4th. It's in the same building. By the way, because I asked you the last time, it's like Lewis Center's like the town,
Right.
and Nationwide Hotel and Conference Center is the location
The venue,
for the event, and that's the venue for the ORP meeting.
Yep.
And it's a basically suburban Columbus. So suburban Columbus,
north of Columbus on Route 23,
where this takes place.
Yeah.
We have a sign up page on Eventbrite. And if you want to sign up, look for this. It's under the Mark Pukita for U.S. Senate 2022 committee, but there's a place you can come sign up to make sure you have a seat. We were getting trolled relentlessly on this. So if it says sold out, don't assume it's sold out yet, because we've had some sort of cyber rhino attack on the event to keep filling up all the spots, but we think we got that addressed. So you can sign up for that event here. And then Mark talked about the mailer that went to something on the order of 5,000 members of county central committees, state central committee, party chairs, etc., and that talked about these and specifically asked them to come to the event and to run for state central committee. But I wanted to cover kind of the highlights of the program for running for state central committee. So it's not a bribe. So it's if you support a 4-point platform, then you can be on team Mark Pukita for the first part of this. And so that's point number 1 on the 4 steps here. Agree to a 4-point platform. That 4-point platform is highly, as you know, Mark, highly controversial. You would think
it's at the bottom of that graphic, Chris, if you can go back to that graphic.
So
there it is. Yeah, there it is.
So end primary endorsements. That's one thing. End primary endorsements, ORP primary endorsements. End secret voting, which would be to allow for roll call voting if a member wants there to be a roll call vote. Start annual audits, actual real audits of the books, like a real financial audit that you would think people that give big money to this operation would want that, but maybe they give it for different reasons. And then live stream their meetings. And one of them is part of the Baghdad Bob locking people out of the room is he is going to start live streaming the meeting, and we'll be watching it live. And so one of them's already covered. So there's only 3 remaining ones: end primary endorsement, end secret voting, and start annual audits. And the last comment I'll make on this that people don't know is these people who are on state central committee try to have it both ways. They claim to be the moral authority of Republican voters, and that's why we should listen to them. And they have their finger on the pulse of the voter. On the other hand, they typically don't want people to contact them. So they want to do it all in secret. We feel completely the opposite about it. And we're going to put out probably tomorrow who you can contact, particularly about primary endorsements. It's on the committee of the ORP about primary endorsements, to let them know that we don't want primary endorsements. And but back to my main point, they want to say they're the pulse and the representatives of you, but at the same time, they want to disallow any on-the-record voting, so you can't know how your central committee rep, state central committee rep, voted on anything. So it's done in secret, so that you can't know how the actual votes came down, which is going to be their moral authority of us, but they don't want you to be able to know how they voted on things. So the real quick here, the other couple things here: agree to the 4-point platform, file to run. The petition is very simple. It only requires 5 valid signatures. We would encourage you to get 15, which is the maximum. A lot of people don't know that for any petition, you're allowed to get up to 3 times the required number, so 15. You want to break those across probably at least 3 petitions. So if one of the petitions got kicked out, you're still able to qualify with the other petitions. It is the same as your Senate district. So if you look at the maps as they are now, God only knows, but whatever Senate district you're in.
Ohio Senate district.
Ohio Senate district, good point. Ohio Senate district is where you file to run, and that's the same district number for the state central committee, the same as your Senate district. So you need to tell Mark at info@markforohio.com, info@markforohio.com, that you want to be part of this. We've been running a little behind following up with people. We're getting your emails, so don't worry about it if we haven't followed up with you.
You're on our spreadsheet.
And then you get $250 campaign contribution directly from Mark to use on your state central committee meeting race. And in addition, Mark, you've committed to try to identify certain state central committee races where you want to basically do more to try to help and contribute to those campaigns.
Yeah, there are a few targets like Mr. Simon, Mr. Johnson, and Ms. Ms. Johnson. So yeah.
Okay.
We have some targets there.
So we will identify which ones based on who's running.
Chris is uncomfortable that I'm naming names there. Did you see that? Chris rarely gets uncomfortable, but he was like, "Oh."
So, but by the way, state central committee members, they can apply. Like if you're on state central committee and you agree with the Mark Pukita 4-point platform, you can apply.
Yeah.
Nothing keeps you from applying. And I would hope, wouldn't you hope, Mark, that a vast majority of state central committee members agree with these controversial points of ending primary endorsement, ending secret voting, starting annual audits, and live streaming meetings.
So, Chris, I think there are many state central committee members right now who are in between. There are the malcontents. There are the wine sycophants, or whatever you want to call them. And there are these people in between that understand the difference between what is right and what is wrong. And they've been bullied and they're afraid sometimes. It's like we're canceling our own people. And what I would say to you is you sign that pledge. We'll give you the $250. I know it's not, something crazy, but you will get a lot of press from us. We will promote you and we will have people out working for you. I mean, we'll do whatever we can. Our resources will be your resources where we can use them. And we need to have a regime change in the Ohio Republican Party. So, Chris, that's it. I'm sorry. I could go on forever about this. This really sets me off because these people are very, very corrupt.
Well, and hopefully there's some of them. I've always said, I've probably said to you before, Mark, that like in the old Western movie, there's the people that wear the black hats that are always the bad guys, and the people that wear the white hats that are always the good guys. But the vast majority of people you see in the movie are the villagers in the middle,
right?
That are in the crossfire, and they tend to go whatever direction is winning to try to protect their families and their livelihoods.
Right.
And hopefully we can just get more state central committee members of goodwill that are on there right now that might start realizing or might start hearing from some of their constituents, enough. I think they're already backed in the corner on the practice of endorsing themselves. So why don't you mention that, Mark, about
So endorsements benefit, Ohio Republican Party endorsements benefit the people who are endorsed because you get on the slate card, and most Republicans are only Republicans on election day. They don't do a lot of research because they're busy building businesses. They're going to school. They're taking care of elderly parents. They're volunteering in their community. There are myriad reasons why they just aren't as engaged as we are. And so they get this slate card from the Ohio Republican Party, who they trust, first mistake, and they go vote that slate card, right? Second mistake. And so we're trying to educate people about this, and we're trying to say to the Ohio Republican Party, do not endorse in the primary in Ohio, because it's a sacred right for voters to pick the candidates they want to see go forward to the general election. It's not for some, contrived, manipulated, gamed group to do this, but they continue to do it. And it seems, Chris, as we expose more and more of this nonsense, they double down. It's like they don't say, you know what, you're right, we should do this, which would be easy. They're like, it's like they can't be wrong. You are wrong, we're right, and screw you. I'd use a different word, but this is family friendly. You would use a different word, but then
I get yelled at if I use
then I'd have to fire you, and you'd have to go to work with Jane Kempkin. But you get it. Yeah.
Did I tell you before we sign off here, my new kind of example of of why Ohio Republican Party primary endorsements are so bad. So here's my new example. Imagine, if you will, you come to a basketball game and you're watching two teams playing, and all of a sudden the referee starts shooting baskets for one of the two teams.
Right.
That's effectively what happens.
It's exactly
in the
it.
Ohio Republican Party, or, because of the benefits they have, you could look at it a different way. What if you suddenly start watching a basketball game and they get told, well, the referees like team A, so they get to have 6 players on the floor, but
Right.
team B only gets to have 5 players on the floor. That's the kind of thing that primary endorsement is. It's wrong. The people like Mike DeWine already have tremendous advantages. I just saw today another dark money PAC is supporting Mike DeWine. So, how much, do they need in terms of versus just standing on their own? So it's the primary, it's a sacred time. So
and this actually, Chris, meshes with this lack of forums. Right. They want to control everything, and it's unacceptable.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you up here full screen, Mark. Why don't you give us your last word before we sign off, or anything else you want to hit on before we call it an evening?
Yeah, I think my last word is that as I travel around the state and I meet with Ohio voters who are just grassroots, conservative, Republican, America Firsters like me, there is a feeling of hope, and that we are going to take this back. And I don't want people to be disappointed if everything doesn't happen at once, but like the school board elections in November, we made progress. We will make progress in May, and we will make progress in November. And no matter what the result, I'm not going away. Chris, I know you're not going away. As I said before, I think I've found my calling for the rest of my life after selling my business and having some free time and some reflection. This is noble work. It's gratifying work to call out the corruption and fix it. Not only call it out, but fix it, like we're doing with State Central Committee. So I love all of you. I thank all of you, especially our volunteers and supporters. They've done an amazing job. We are going to have close to 3,000 signatures, the max that we can have when we submit them. This is stunning to me. A few years ago, I was never thinking of running. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I thank you every day in my prayers. And I pray to God every day that your lives are blessed with every possible good thing. So thank you very much. And oh, by the way, God bless you. God bless America.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time on the Truth Bomb.